Hi, Eric Sundergaard with Armstrong, Architectural Specialties Installation Manager. And today we're going to talk about METALWORKS VECTOR effects panels. And we're going to talk about some of the operations of this panel. If you notice, this is actually a perfed panel, and the perfs are actually wrapped around the edges of the panel, so there is no border around it. This is actually a walnut finish that we're looking at. And then when you go to the back side of the panel, there's a lot of things to notice about this. So you notice these springs on the side. This is to help keep the panel pressurized in the actual grid system, so you don't need any additional clips. So whenever you cut a panel, this will be the side you always cut off. In addition to these safety hooks. So you're using 15/16 grid with this panel, and as the grid is engaged, the panel is engaged onto the grid, the safety hook springs over the top of it. So that's an added benefit to the panel to just ensure that the panel doesn't fall out and hit the ground as it's being removed. One other benefit to this panel is these tabs. If you want to make the panel to where it will not be removed unless you go back up in the ceiling, you can actually, once this panel is installed, you can take this tab and bend it right over, and it will hold itself onto the grid to where it cannot be released again unless you come back over and release that tab again. And there's one on both sides. For exterior purposes, we would require a screw through that as well. Okay, one other thing about these panels, we're going to talk about making custom panels on the job site. And I'm not talking about panels at the perimeters. I'm more like talking a panel within the field. So let's say you have a linear light fixture, or you have a 1x2 diffuser and a 2x2 grid. Now you have to produce a 1x2 tile to fit in there, and it'd be very expensive to get this custom made. So is there a way of doing it out on the job site? And yes, there is. Remember what we talked about earlier? Anytime you cut this panel, you always cut off the spring side, always. So in doing that, this panel has already been cut off, spring side is missing. We're gonna take this Vector edge cap. This was actually ordered in black, which is the most common color for any wood grain effects finishes. And then you take it and you cap it on to the panel to cover your cut edge. And then when you're installing this panel, when you install it up onto the grid, you will have to take your snips to release a little bit of a material on each end of this panel. Once this is engaged in the grid, you then would poke these fingers out for the flange of the prelude grid, for it to rest on the flange of the prelude grid. So now we're going to talk about the suspension system for the METALWORKS VECTOR. The METALWORKS VECTOR hangs down from the face of the grid 3/8 of an inch, okay? Something to keep in mind when you're doing this. Prelude grid, 15/16. You could frame it mains 4 feet apart, if they're 4-foot tees, and then your 2-foot tees. You want to raise the grid up at the wall angle, because there's no way to cover that cut except with that edge trim I showed you, but you don't want to use that at the perimeter. You only want to use that within the field of the grid. So if you raise the grid up, you can use the wall angle to cover your cut edge. Using the 7835 C channel up there is going to add another benefit to holding down that cut edge of the panel, which we'll go over here in a minute. Your clearance with this system, since it's a downward accessible panel, it only needs to be like 2 inches. So you can do this on a very tight plenum and still be able to use this sealing system. All right, so the 7835 C channel I'm using, painted black. You can use 2 different size flanges. That's just over 3/4 of an inch, and this side is 9/16 of an inch. Since we're using 15/16 grid, I have the bigger leg down. When your cut panel is resting inside there, then you would use the 7835 SC. This is a spreader channel. It's just under 11 inches long. You need 1 for every lineal feet of C channel. When your panel is in there, use that, snaps right in there, holds down your cut edge. A lot faster than doing 2 pieces of wall angle and trying to screw the second piece of wall angle and pinching it tight. This is definitely a lot easier way to do it on the job site. So for the perimeter trims on this, you have a couple different options. So this right here is our Architectural Specialties Effects trim. It has a vector profile to it. So basically we're using the bottom flange down. You can get this in the same wood grain finish as your panels. This one is not gonna match. And then you connect your grid to it with a FXV TBC. So this is just like the normal clips that come with the regular Axiom perimeter trims, but this is a vector one. So the difference in it is this flange. Let me spin it around this way. You see that score mark? The way this clip is engaged right now is the way this clip is designed, if you engage this clip into your perimeter trim right now, it will hold your grid up 3/8 of an inch. If you cut that score mark off, you can raise your grid up to 1/2 of an inch, which works for our vector seal, our Woodworks Vector, Ultima, Optima Vector, and even concealed mineral fiber and fiberglass products as well. To cut that, you just use a pair of snips to cut it like that, and you can cut that piece right off. But we don't need to cut it off for this system because METALWORKS Vector is the only vector product that hangs down 3/8 of an inch, where all the other vector products hang down 1/2 of an inch. So your cut edge is resting on the perimeter trim. In order to hold it down, you would order an FXSP-T HDC clip. And this engages into the boss. So there's a boss at the top and the bottom of the trim. The bottom of the trim, the top of the boss, engage the hook into the top there, and then using your finger, just push it in to engage the bottom. Really simple. Now, if you want to use a curved perimeter trim, then you can always use our Axiom vector products as well, which we can do straight or curved. Okay, a couple of things I actually wanted to talk about a little bit more in depth on this vector profile trim. It's basically a two-way trim. You can use it for full-size panels or cuts. And right now, so we have our vector panel face up on the table here, so our trim is actually flipped around in order to show what the finish would look like. But for a full-size panel install only, which means if you're doing a cloud and it's full-size tiles all around it, no rounded corners, all squared off, but all full-size tiles, you can create your perimeter trim to have that look to it, okay? But once you get any cut panels in this system at the perimeter trim, anywhere, that's where you have to invert this trim and use it like this so you can cover that cut edge. So you will not have that same architectural look that you would have on a full-size tile like this. But once again, this has to be a full-size tile install throughout the whole entire cloud. Another thing I'd like to mention about the panels before you start doing your cuts is for every carton of METALWORKS Vector effects you get, half of the panels with the spring, it will be perpendicular to the grain. And the other half of the panels, the spring will be parallel to the grain. That is so you can, when you're putting all the border panels, and when you're cutting and installing your border panels in the room, you can do all your borders first to make sure you get the grain going the same direction, and then make up the difference with the full-size panels on spinning in whatever direction you need to for the grain to match. All right, so when we want to measure for our dimension on our panel, basically tuck the tape all the way against the back wall, and let's measure right to the flange of the Prelude 15/16 grid. I have 11 1/4. So the back wall, I'm going to have the grain perpendicular to the back wall. So this will be my cut panel for the back side. So I'll measure 11 1/4. So before I cut this, I'm still going to put some blue tape on to protect it, but just remember the spring side is garbage. You can't use this anymore, so there's really no sense in protecting that. So I will just put one piece on your good side. So that way you're not wasting time and tape and taking off the whole panel. Then I'm going to use the Hilti circular metal cutting saw to make this cut. Hold your ears. As you're putting the hold downs on, you want to kind of hold the panel with the back side here. Hold it tight to the grid so it doesn't push the panel as you're putting the spreader channel in there. Okay, so now we have to install some of the full-size tiles. And the spring side really doesn't matter on this, so you can alternate it, whatever you need to do to make the grain match on the ceiling. So, I'm just gonna install this one here. Put up the spring side first against the grid, push over, it engages and springs back. That's it. Automatically centers itself up in the grid, ends up leaving a 1/4 inch reveal from panel to panel. Put the spring side up first. Okay, finished installing these panels. Just put the spring end up. I don't know if you noticed that the grid was 360 painted. That's doesn't need to be like that since you're not seeing up through the plenum at all, so it could have been just a black capped grid instead. Whatever color you want to see in your reveals, that's what color you're going to want the grid to be. You have two options for your infill. You can use the bagged fiberglass, which this is okay for this system since there's going to be fleece on the back side of the panel for the perfs, and you're never going to see the shininess of this plastic. Or if you need a better NRC, you can use our bioacoustical infill pad. Thank you for your time today to watch this video. If you would like to learn more about these Armstrong METALWORKS products, please visit armstrongceilings.com/metalworks.